Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we are doing another light novel video. Now today's light novel video is about the best light novels that I read in 2020. Now, I read about 36 to 37 light novels. I can't remember exactly. I'll put it up on the screen right here so you guys know the exact number. But out of those books, I only read 23 series. So I didn't feel that I could make a top 10 video because that would be half of the light novels. And I really didn't feel all that strongly about 10 light novel series. So what I'm going to do here is a top 5. And I'm going to have 2 honorable mentions that I'll mention right before I announce the number 1 light novel that I read this year. Or this past year, sorry. So, the best light novels I read in 2020, well, it was tough to decide. There was about 8 light novels, or 8 light novel series that I really felt strongly about. Now, it wasn't really necessarily fair because some of them only had 1 volume, some of them had 3 volumes, some of them I read up to 4 volumes of, I think. And I just wasn't really able to pinpoint one specific volume for the ones that were that I read more than 1 volume of. So it's not exactly a fair comparison, but I try to make it as fair as possible and try to focus only on the first volume. So that's it for that. Statistics are out of the way as well. Let's just jump into it. So at number 5 on the list is Cooking with Wild Game. This is a great foodie series. It's a light novel series based around the idea of cooking and developing new cooking techniques and skills in an isekai world, which is really awesome. I like that a lot. The main character was a bit kind of dumb. He wasn't really all that great as a hero. He wasn't really all that amazing. But the interactions he had with the main female character were rather good. I really enjoyed the romance that developed between them, the trust, the way that they overcame their differences and joined forces to make the people around them much happier than they were before. And it also helped to support the female character in the story, which had basically become the only person in her family and was alone in this very difficult world that they lived in. It was really cute how he helped her without meaning to, just doing the things that he was good at, which was cooking. And I think it was really lovely. It was a very beautiful series. And I loved the premise of exploring a new world via its ingredients and its cooking culture. I thought that was really amazing. The other thing that I really loved about the story was Aifa, the main female character. She was just so amazing. Like, she was a strong, independent female character, which is always good. She was also a kind of like jungle girl stereotype, which is an old school stereotype that was popular in Pulp Fiction in the US. I don't know how popular it is in Japan, but it's a trope or style or character archetype that I really like. I think it's really beautiful or attractive, I guess. I'm not really sure how to word it, but I like it a lot. And she was also very emotionally interesting character. Like, she was strong and stuff, but she was also very vulnerable inside, and that tough veneer that she had outside could crack at moments, and it was just so good how she expressed herself. The author of this light novel series did a really good job with her. So on to number 4. Now number 4 is Der Werewolf, The Annals of Veit. I love the world building in this series so much because the premise here is basically this guy from Japan gets isekai'd into this medieval fantasy world, right? However, he ends up being a werewolf instead of a human, and he ends up being able to use magic, which is something most werewolves cannot do. Also, because he's not naturally a werewolf, he has the ability to not fall into the pratfalls or the innate genetic problems that a lot of monsters fall into, which is a very caveman-esque kind of lifestyle where respect is granted by power, not by ability or like knowledge or how you overcome your problems. It's all about brute force. So our main character can evade a lot of those problems because he used to be human. That's a really amazing thing. Now, beyond that, the focus of the story is actually on kingdom building, on the demon army taking over a town, and then from there starting to create their empire, because even though they're monsters, they end up being better people than the regular humans, which I think is a really fun kind of subversion of your expectations, which is really cool. When subversion is done really well, it impacts the reader very strongly. I felt very strongly about this light novel because the world building aspect was really great. There was very different cultures between all the monsters, but they all kind of had the same general philosophy when it came to who's in charge and respect and power. And there was a lot of isekai people, and that kind of affected how things worked. And the emphasis on this world was not necessarily on how humans could be monsters, but how monsters could overcome the difficulties of fighting, intellectually superior beings like humans. I also really loved the fact that it was focused on creating this kind of monster utopia that you could invite humans to, and that they slowly started to see that it was way better than the human cities that weren't under monster control. I also like that the way the characters solved these problems, because they generally had a somewhat of a level of thought behind them, but everyone always interpreted it as like, holy crap, this guy is crazy as hell. And I think that's hilarious. I thought that was really funny. It was a really fun thing to read, right? So, what's the third light novel on my list? Well, I've been killing slimes for 300 years and I maxed out my level. Is the third best light novel that I read in 2020. Now, this is kind of weird because plotline wise, it's not really better than any of the other light novels that I read. However, the way it makes you feel and the way the characters develop is really amazing. I really love how there's this emphasis on a family unit and finding a family unit or a family in general outside of the bounds of traditional families. It's about this woman that gets isekai'd because she died of being overworked, and as recompense, she is allowed to live an eternity and in a very leisurely lifestyle. Eventually, 300 years after she has been isekai'd, she figures out that she had maxed out her level in a very RPG style fantasy world. Turns out being a level 99 is the max level that anyone can achieve, and through sheer age, she managed to achieve it. This causes a bit of a ruckus, and a lot of people come to challenge her. All of the people that come to challenge her lose, but some of them decide to stay, and slowly but surely, a little family is born out of this. And I think that's a really amazing story. I really love how cozy and warm and kind of gentle it was, and I read it in a time where I was really stressed, and so such a nice, comforting read really helped me out and really allowed me to relax during the stressful time of final exams. So it was a really wonderful read. I really enjoyed it, and I put it up on this list because of the effect it had on me after I read it. Not necessarily because its plotline is amazing or its writing structure is anything special. It's just really relaxing, and I love that a lot. Now, number 2 on the list is 86. This is the second mecha series that I read this year, and I think one of the few that is available out right now in the US. I hope we get more sci-fi and mecha light novels, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be, a thing that's going to happen. I hope it is, but I'm not really sure. Now, 86 has amazing world building. It's a very kind of World War II-esque world where there's 2 countries and they're kind of a mishmash of different aspects of Germany and Russia. And then this world is basically like in this eternal war between the humans of this country called San Magnolia and the robots from this other country called the Empire of Guard, I think. I can't remember what the actual name was, but it started with a G. And these two forces are in constant combat. However, there's a lot of elements of racism based around the Sand Magnolians. There's a lot of trauma associated with the world. And the characterization and the exploration of humanity through its characters was really amazing. And it was all possible because the world building was really there to support it. The author here did a really great job at creating a story outside of the bounds of the real world, with enough things from the real world there that you could connect with it, and used it really effectively to look at how cruel people are and how, even at your lowest, you can still be cruel if someone is lower than you, which is a very interesting thing. And it also showed us that no matter how high up on the totem pole you are, you can always care about the ones that are at the bottom, which is, very interesting. It's something that maybe we should look at more often, and something that a lot of us should probably think about more often is, how can I help those below me instead of how can I climb above those above me, right? Which is kind of really meaningful, and I really liked how it looked at this, because the message ended up being, don't pity those below you. It's actually just do your best to support them in the way that is possible for you. And I thought that was really good. I really enjoyed it. I also liked that it was a mecha story, and the just atmosphere that it had was very bleak, but also had an element of hope to it that I really enjoyed. So 86 is there on the list because of its amazing world building and its very good work with characters. Now, my honorable mentions, I have two of them. The first is side character. Now, the full title is There's No Way a Side Character Like Me Could Be Popular, Right? And this is the debut novel for Tentai Books. I have a review for it up there. And if you want to buy it, you can use code LION to get a 10% discount on the Tentai Books website. So that's pretty cool. And side character is an honorable mention because I love the characters. I really enjoy this kind of weird storytelling trope, which I hadn't seen before, but so I guess it's not a trope, but it's a storytelling style where it's the main character is narrating the stuff that's happening to him and around him without realizing he's the main character. And I thought that was really cool. It was a fun gimmick. I don't know if it'll work well for the rest of the series, but I hope it does. I also like the female character, the female lead. She's a very interesting girl. She has a lot of pressure to be as perfect as her brother, but she can't ever really achieve it because if she does anything her brother did, she had to do it because her brother did it. And so she doesn't have any possible room for growth or any way to get recognized because her brother already did everything before her. So she has these very deep-seated emotional problems that she doesn't really let affect her life, but that are still there. And our main character is the faithful companion and secondary character to the girl's brother. Eventually, they come together in this fake relationship, kind of like Nisekoi, according to Alex. He likes to mention a lot that Nisekoi is very similar. And they seem to start to actually fall in love with each other. And I think that's really cool. It's a very interesting kind of... It's not a subversion because you would assume that a romantic comedy would have romance. But it's kind of a neat storyline, right? And one that I really enjoy. I think it's not very realistic. I don't know why anyone would really engage in fake relationships, but it's a very cute way of framing the idea so that you can have a nice story where you fall in love and have characters acting like they're in love before they are, for real. So it's a very cool story. I really enjoyed it, and I think the translation was pretty interesting. There was a lot of phrasing there that I don't necessarily know that was correct, but it was very meta, and I liked it because it was very funny to read in a light novel. And I think the phrasing was kind of meta in the original language. It was just adapted and localized as best as they could to, English phrases. And I think that the English phrases that they chose were pretty good because they were really fun and kind of, enjoyable. So that was really cool on that kind of note. Now, the second honorable mention is Infinite Dendrogram. Now, I really love the concept and the characterization in the series. It's a very cool thing because you're basically sent into this video game world, and the main character knows that it's fake, but everyone there acts so real, and they have real life consequences, or like the characters, the NPCs in the world experience life the same way he does, or at least as close to the way he does, according to his point of view. And there's a finality to their lives. And so the fact that their lives begin and end makes them real, even if they're only created digitally, right? And our main character deals with this in a very, unsure way. He's not sure what is real and what isn't, but he starts to realize that to him, the world of the video game is so much more real than the real world. And so he starts to care for these NPCs, and he wants to protect them. And so it's a very interesting kind of development of the character that I really like a lot. And he has this companion that serves as his weapon that tells you a lot about his character as well. And I really like how those two entities really work to counteract and balance each other in a way that really helps you find out what's going to happen. And I like it a lot. I also enjoy the world building and the concept of a VR MMO video game that is lifelike is very cool. However, it didn't make it on the list because the explanations in book 1 were just too long. There wasn't enough in book 1 to really make it feel like it was an amazing series, which kind of sucks because if you don't catch people in volume 1, it's going to be very difficult for them to pick up volume 2, especially when there's hundreds of light novels to pick from, and a game lit novel where you go into VR MMO isn't really all that difficult to find. So the premise or the genre that was used here, the game lit aspect, was both its blessing and its curse, and it was very difficult to balance it out, I guess. So that's why I didn't make it on the list. Now, the number 1 light novel that I read this year was Reign of the Seven Spellblades. Now, this is amazing. It was this Harry Potter with swords thing, and it was very cool. There was so much fun stuff. It was Harry Potter with cute anime girls, with a very dark, sinister version of magic, with, crazy older students that were so overpowered that were basically natural disasters when you had to go with them. The castle came alive at night and ate students basically, and you could lose yourself and never find your way out. And there was so much stuff here, and the epilogue was amazing. It changed the paradigm of the story completely. It was I don't know, it was just crazy that the epilogue blew everything from the novel away and just changed how you looked at the whole story. It was so good. It was amazing. I loved it so much. This is a light novel that I think, if marketed correctly and if shared by enough people in the community, could bring so many new people into it. And if we bring so many new people into it and grow the market, we're going to have more light novels. And I think it's a very good idea to try to show this novel to a lot of people, because the fact that it's so similar to Harry Potter, although it could be a curse, I think it's really a blessing, because you can, bring people in with that, let them read the whole book, and then they get to the epilogue, get hooked, and then you get a fan of light novels, right? I think it's a very good book. I loved it. It was very well written. The author, mangaka, the author really was writing a beautiful novel, not just a compilation of chapters together, which is something that you can feel sometimes in other light novels. In I've Been Killing Science for 300 Years, each chapter feels like it was just its own little story that just happened to have chronological sense with these stories around it. This does not feel like that at all. This is really its own story. It has a start and a finish, and there's so much more to find out, and I can't wait to do so. So that was my list of best light novels I read in 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. What were the best light novels that you guys read this past year? Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys in the next video.